It's time to go home now, and I've got an aching head. So I give her the car keys, and she helps me to bed. And then I tell her, as I turn out the light, I say, my darling, you were wonderful tonight. Oh, my darling, you were wonderful tonight. People always tell me that Aquarius are not emotional enough. They're not emotionally supportive enough. They're not emotionally in tune enough. And to be honest with you, this does happen a lot, but it's not all the time, and it's not all of us. It's only those of us who have chosen to turn off our emotional selves. For those of you who watched the Vampire Diaries back in the day, the vampires could turn off their humanity if they so chose. And I feel like this is the same thing with Aquarius. When a vampire turned off their humanity, what they actually did was turn off their emotions. The emotion is what makes them still human. And with Aquarius, I feel like we do the same thing. We shut off our emotions in order to survive. Most Aquarius do it as a defense mechanism. So when you come across an Aquarius and you're looking at them like, the ones who are or aren't emotionally supportive, that's a good reason why. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper with this and explain a little bit more about the thought process of Aquarius when it comes to emotional support. But first, let me do the introduction and then we'll get into it. Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Alset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to somebody else who might like it too. And please drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And stick around to the end. If I have some extra, I don't think I have any extras here today, but stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to want to know about. If you want to get a reading done, or if you want to become one of my patrons on Patreon, or if you want to hit me up on social media or send me a gift, all that information is underneath this video. So, people often ask me about us being able to be emotionally supportive. And the answer to this is that Aquarius can be emotionally supportive. The problem with Aquarius and emotional support is that it has to make logical sense to the Aquarius. I have a friend, and I've been friends with her for a very long time. And she's been with the same no good dude the whole time. When I first met her, I was very emotionally supportive and very compassionate because the situation is not a good one. And I really felt sorry for her. But it's been 10 years now, going on 11. And she's been with the same no good dude, saying the same old song over and over and over again. And now she feels like I'm not being emotionally supportive. And I agree. She's right. I'm not being as emotionally supportive as I was before because logically this makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me for you to stay with somebody almost 11 years who's abusing you, cheating on you, disrespecting you, and me to keep on listening to these stories over and over again. So for many Aquarius, if something doesn't make sense, it's hard for us to keep empathizing with it. Now, my thing is that I understand emotion. I deal with enough people every day and their emotions, but I'm not going to sit here. It doesn't make logical sense to me to sit here and keep having the same conversation with her over and over and over again. Now, on the flip side of that, I have clients who send me messages about the same situations over and over again. Now, with my clients, my compassion maintains because I am their employee. Okay? If I'm doing readings, if I'm helping someone, I'm basically their employee. And I have the belief that the customer is always right. So if they want to discuss the same situation every time I see them, I discuss it every time I see them. Because at the end of the day, they are the customer. They are the client. And it's my job to help them with what they're struggling with. So herein, I don't get tired of it because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But with my friend, I don't feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be enabling her to stay in a bad relationship. But whereas with my clients, I feel like I'm helping them work through their relationships. So to me, in my Aquarius logic, it might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me. In one case, I'm enabling someone. In another case, I'm a paid employee who's helping the person work through whatever they're working through. Another situation I'll tell you about. When I was a very young girl, I knew an old lady. I was friends with her family. I was dating one of her family members. And she was an old lady I thought didn't like me very much. And come to find out, it really wasn't the case. When she went into the hospital, and her family knew that she was going to pass over. And they wanted somebody who would go to the hospital and spend time with her. At that time, I was in high school, and my bus stopped right at the hospital. I would get off the train at the hospital and take the bus home. So I volunteered to stop in and see her sometime. I didn't know she was going to die. I thought she was just sick. So I offered to stop in and see her and that kind of thing, even though I didn't think she liked me that much, but I figured she needed somebody. So I started going up to the hospital to see her. After a few weeks, I found out her prognosis. I found out that she was not going to make it out of the hospital. And it really broke my heart. And so I continued to go see her. Every day after school, visiting hours was from 3 to 7. I would get there at about 3:30. And from 3 to 7, I would sit with her. And I would talk to her about her life, her regrets, her triumphs. And I had no problem being present and emotionally supportive during that time with this person I didn't even think liked me. Come to find out, she felt like I was a lot like her, too much so, and it worried her. That was what the whole thing was about. She was worried that I was going to make the same mistakes that she did. And that's what we talked about for those 3 months before she passed away. And nobody knows this except for you guys. To this day, every time I go back to Philadelphia, I visit her grave. So Aquarius don't have a hard time being emotionally supportive. It just has to make sense to us. It makes sense to me that somebody who's in the hospital or somebody who's at the end of their life needs emotional support. That makes perfect sense to me. But somebody whining about the same situation for 10 years and not doing anything about it, and it's not my job, doesn't make sense to me, you know? I understand that people go through situations. I understand that it's hard. You know, I know that love is a big thing, you know, or thinking that you're in love. Relationships are very serious. I understand that. But if you're not going to do anything about your situation, the chances are not very high that an Aquarius is going to keep listening to you and, going through the situation with you. And a lot of people come to me and they complain about this with Aquarius. And I'm like, that's how we are. It has to make sense. If I'm emotionally supporting you and I see that my emotional support is wasted because you're not doing anything with the information, you're not using it to better your life, at that point, I feel like it's wasting my time when I could be emotionally supporting somebody who is looking for the advice, who does want whatever I have to offer, whatever that may be. So a lot of times I think that people have to understand that Aquarius intellectualize even emotion. It's like, does this make sense? Does this make sense to me? Okay, this person's feelings make sense, but how they're handling it and what they want from me because of it doesn't make sense. So if your Aquarius is not being emotionally supportive, ask yourself, is it because the Aquarius has turned their emotions off? Or is it because the Aquarius feels like emotionally supporting you is really not helping either one of you? And if it's the latter, then you have to look at what you're doing with the Aquarius's emotional support. Are you appreciating it? Are you utilizing it? And some people may say that's not fair. Like I should just get supported because. Yeah, and there are people out there who are just going to support you because they love you. The Aquarius is only going to support you to the point that it makes sense to them. If they're supporting you and it doesn't make sense, it's not helping you, you're not doing anything with it, then they're going to start to wonder, is my emotional support helpful? Is my emotional support needed in this situation? So you have to kind of understand that in those cases, it's not because we don't care, it's because we don't really think it's helping. But in the cases where it is helping, or it's important, or it's our job, like I said earlier, those are different cases. So my friend is going to stay mad. She's going to stay mad. And I just feel like, look, I've done exactly what I would have expected her to do for me. I would have expected her to do exactly the same thing, to listen, to offer advice, to be there. And 10 years later, I'm still making the same mistakes. I'm still doing the same thing. I'm going to understand if a person is like, look, I can't keep rocking with you. So before you get angry at your Aquarius, try to figure out which one it is. Because if the Aquarius has shut off their humanity and they just can't be or choose not to be emotionally supportive, you're 100% correct. That's somebody who is not going to be helpful to you in that way. So you can choose to get your emotional support from somewhere else, or you can choose not to engage with that particular person. But it's really important to figure out which one of the two it is. Is it them or is it you? Okay? Because I've seen both scenarios all the time. And people come to me and they're like, my Aquarius is not emotionally supportive. And I'm like, sounds like your Aquarius is tired of being emotionally supportive and it not really helping you. Or they are, like I said before, at a point where they've been doing it for so long, they don't even know what else to do. Okay? So ask yourself those questions about your Aquarius before you make a decision. Okay? All right, guys, it's time for me to get going. So you come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.